Do you think fairly that that malpractice is driving up the cost of medical care significantly?
Well, I'm not an expert in this, but I'd say mostly no. I hear doctors talk about how they have to practice defensive medicine, how much they resent it and what a burden it is. I would say that in my view, in general, the presence of tort law and malpractice lawyers makes doctors a bit more careful. It makes lawyers more careful. It makes, you know, the factory floor safer. And it makes construction safer. And it makes, when you go to Home Depot, the reason the lumber doesn't fall on your head is because of tort law. They don't want to get sued. And that's one of the two purposes of tort law. So to that extent, I guess it makes it a little more expensive, but I think that's a really good result. And I don't think it's much. I think the new machines and technologies are, and the big pharma are far more the drivers of the increased expense of healthcare. Everyone agrees we pay too much in this country, but I think that the medical malpractice system is a very tiny part of it.
You know, I agree with you. I know for a fact that it's been estimated to be about 5%.
You know there's cameras rolling now, and you just said that as a doctor.
I know.
All right, okay, I'm just warning you.
About $5 billion, I think, is paid out for claims, but the vast majority is said to be paid out for defensive medicine. Now, the whole thing of defensive medicine is really kind of nebulous, too, because of what's defensive medicine, you know, ordering extra tests, and who benefits from that? I mean, often we do. I mean, the doctors themselves benefit. I know that's not a popular thing to say.
No, they're surprising me again and again.
I see a lot of unnecessary care, and maybe it's because we're being extra careful. Maybe we're worried about malpractice. It probably is, but I see a lot of unnecessary care that could reduce the cost of health care significantly.
And do you think that lawyers are responsible for doctors doing the unnecessary parts?
I think they're blamed for it.
You what?
They take the blame for it.
They take the blame for it. Yeah, but do you think that's fair? Do you think that's accurate?
No, not exactly. Not completely.
I don't think most doctors, when they're with a patient, are thinking, you know, I could get sued if I don't do this test, and that test. I just don't see that. I mean, the standards aren't set that way. You know, I don't know.
I certainly don't practice that way. I don't see it as a sort of Damocles hanging over my head. But you think about it. You know, you think about it quite a bit,
sure.
But it doesn't drive what I do.
Right, and so does everyone, and that's the purpose of tort law. That's not a bad thing. It might have a bad result if someone's right that too much wasteful testing is being done. I don't think so, but I don't know. But the point of tort law is to get people to be more careful, not defensive, that's a loaded word, but to do a better job, to be more careful, to stay up a little later and worry a little more. That's the point.
Yeah. I think some doctors use defensive medicine as an excuse to either to help their own insecurities about things, you know, they're insecure about, they want to know,
sure.
Always want to know. Oncology is a field that I know a lot of oncologists, and they do a lot of tests on people because they're worried about them. Their diseases change quickly, and they do a lot of tests, you know. Maybe I don't think it's all defensive medicine. I think it's really because they worry about the patients.
Right. That's my sense of the doctors that I deal with, certainly with you, is that it's a concern for the patient. And it may be that the test is only going to give you useful information a small percentage of the time, but it might be really important to know it nonetheless. That's my sense of how most doctors do it.
In that regard, this is a little off topic, but sometimes doing a test that's unnecessary, medically unnecessary, will cure the disease. I'll give you an example. A person who's convinced they have a brain tumor for some reason, maybe their father had it, maybe they have headaches and migraine or something, doing the MRI, which I know they don't need, will cure it once they find out it's normal. That's the end of story. Maybe the cheapest way to deal with it. Even though from the straight point of view of medicine, our textbooks would say, don't do it. It's an unnecessary test.
Well, listening to that as a potential patient with a potential brain tumor, if you could do a test on me and say, you can calm down now, you know, that would be a test that I wouldn't consider to be defensive or unjustified.
Yeah. Well, our guidelines may say it's unjustified, but I still would do it in that circumstance.
For me, right? You do that for me.